Hello and welcome to the Gone Traveling Podcast. We are looking at the BKT EuroCup, and this is episode 20 of the 2025-2026 season. We're looking at round 17, another thrilling round of action. With me to break it down, me being David Hein of Hein News and taking the charge. Substack is Marco Muno, communication specialist and collaborator with La Giornata Tipo. Marco, how you doing?
Well, it's fine, and this round of EuroCup really gives another exciting nights. So we're really good, and we're cool for that.
Yeah, another thrilling round of action. Jerusalem, their thrilling OT win. They clinch Group A, top spot in Group A. Borg with a thriller comeback, clinch a quarterfinal spot. Reyer and Chemnitz move into the playoffs, and the only spot left remaining is either Cluj or Aris, and they will play in round 18. We'll get to that later on. And that would be the final spot in the playoffs. Obviously, plenty of seeding still to be decided. The week also saw Slask Wroclaw snap an 8-game losing streak and beat Bahcesehir in, who would have thought it, back-to-back games. And for those out there hoping that we talk about Hamburg and Cedevita, nope. You have a late game to recording Thursday, and so we will not be talking about that game on the show. So all of this is has no bearing on what happened at the Hamburg home game against Cedevita. Let's jump right into it. I've talked about it a couple times. I watch games, sometimes not knowing the result, sometimes knowing the result. I knew the result of Borg London, and I tuned in with about like 3 minutes left or 2 minutes left, and I saw that London was winning by 10 points, and I said, "Huh?" Um, yeah, and then Darius McGee and Asim Molari happened, as the kids will say. Let's say. You wanted to talk about Borg's miracle 86-85 win over London. The Borg 13 and 4, 13 and 4, London 5 and 12. Um, yeah, I think, I'll just let you go.
I think it's the best finish of the season as for now, and we had already previously great ending of the game, but this one is really special. I think when Williams scored 73 to 83 with 77 seconds less in the game, you thought, well, it's over, and then Berg is gonna lose, and their top spot in the Group B is in serious jeopardy. And then instead, McGee had really a special sequence. Berg scored 13 points and leaving two to London, so flipping the result and winning at the end. But McGee had really a special stretch. He scored a triple when the result was 77 to 85. And it was
With
really out
40
of
seconds left, with 40 seconds left. We were up by 8.
the
London was up by 8 with 40 seconds left.
and then McGee scored a triple without any equilibrium, so falling really. And then in the in the same action, basically, he stole the ball from the inbound pass after his basket, and he had another shot without being really in an equilibrium, and he didn't score, but he he was fouled, so he had three free throws, and he scored all the three free throws, and basically we got like 6 points, really in a flurry. But the ball is still in the London Lions hands, So you had to make a foul on trust your defense, and Berg trusts his defense as they did it from the beginning of this Eurocup season. And Mulare had a steal in a chaotic attack from London. And on the other side, you um, if you're London, you don't want Berg to score, but you don't want to Berg to score a 3 points. So
Yeah.
they kind of opened the lane for Darius McGee to go in, and instead Darius McGee at the end made an assist from under the basket to Mulare, and the same Mulare that was the guy who stole the ball into their defensive end was the guy who was shooting instead of McGee, and he scored. So Berg find itself to win the game on top of the result, and their 86 to 85 was really giving them. A huge victory, and they remains for that at top spot of the Group B.
Yeah, and so McGee 17 points, 9 assists, Malari 17 points, Gotch 19 points. You have to feel for London, Ethan Price 21 points. They've lost their last 3 games by a total of 3 points. A total of 3 points. They lost Olm on the buzzer, Paninios by one, and then this game. So you absolutely have to feel some sympathy um, for London. Let's move to the big Turkish derby. We knew that this was a massive game. Besiktas and Turk Telekom. Besiktas get the home win, 12 and 91-81. 10-point difference was not indicative of how much of a battle this was. Besiktas moves to 12 and 6, 9 and 0 at home, the only undefeated team at home. Turk Telekom at 11 and 5 will probably get tucked in under have home court advantage in the round of 16 playoffs, eighth finals, and then we'll have to see what goes from there. Besiktas pulled away in the final 2 minutes. You had really Devin Dotson come up big. He had 12 of his 22 points in the final 5 minutes. Big two big threes when Turk Telecom had made a big comeback from 11 points down in the fourth quarter, and yeah, Dotson was just big in this game. I think he had 20 points in the other game. I mentioned in the last week when we were talking about this game that this was the fourth meeting of these two teams. Besiktas won way back in the Turkish league in September, and then won by 9 points at Turk Telekom in round 8. But Turk Telekom won by 3 points at home in the Turkish league on January 18th, so like 3 weeks ago. And Coach Dusan Olimpiyevich said after the game that we showed them a lot of clips from the last loss in Turkish league, and was mentioning how there was some fouls early on right away, went uncalled, and obviously Turk Telekom ended up winning that game. But then he said, that motivated them a lot and motivated his guys a lot. A big victory for Besiktas because that puts them. They are locked in a top two spot. So you have Borg and Besiktas locked in the top two. Besiktas does have the tiebreaker over Borg, but Borg right now is a game ahead of them. So yeah, congratulations to Besiktas. Any thoughts on the big Turkish derby?
Well, I think if Berg wasn't winning their game, it will bring the first place on the Group B to Besiktas. So confirming that they are really, really a huge team, and I think they missed it, but really a statement win on on the Turk Telekom, and when rounds are over, you will look at how the teams are really finishing the first phase to see how they will enter into the next one. And I think this game is really meaning that thing to Besiktas, that they are really ready to even to win against huge clubs, and winning before the a thrilling finish, but able to establish themselves from the beginning of the game, that was happened, the important stretch happened and into the second quarter. So
One quick thing more on Olimpijevich after the game. He was talking. He was asked about if they wanted to bring the playoff games whatnot into a bigger arena, and he talked about the passion and the commitment, loyalty of the fans, and that only has like 3,500 fans that fit into that arena. And he said he wants to finish EuroCup in that arena because you look at they're 9-0 in that place. Why would you want to play anywhere else? Okay, you might be able to bring in more fans, but you're going to lose that hated atmosphere that teams don't want to come in. You see, and Turk Telecom's been playing really good basketball, and they come in and they can't finish off a game. Um, Turk Telecom made mistakes, missed 12 free throws, shot, 4 of 19 from 3-point range, but, Besiktas also won that game. Group A, yeah, Group A, as we said, is locked down in the hands of Hapoel Midtown Jerusalem. Thrilling game over Cluj. Lots of scoring. Who would have expected that? 114 to 104 in overtime. Jerusalem moved to 13-4. Cluj dropped to 8-9. Their fate is still in their own hands. What an amazing comeback. Jerusalem up by 23 points with just over 2 minutes left in the third quarter. And then yeah, Trey Woodbury happened. 16 of his 28 points in the fourth quarter sends the game to overtime. I'll let you talk about Jerusalem's victory over Cluj.
yeah, last week we were a bit shocked that Jerusalem wasn't still qualified to the playoff, even if they are kind of dominating the Group A. They were coming from two defeats in a row. That was really strange, and we were thinking like, are they starting to fade their faith in themselves? And it seems like the story of that game as well, because when you had like that comeback coming from from your opponent, you were thinking like, okay, I had game one, but now I'm really losing it. And instead Jerusalem had their comeback as well, at least about the, the rhythm of the game into the overtime. And I think when you had something like that that is happening to you, you need to rely on people that really you believe the most. And I think in this game is easy to see the game of Jared Harper. But about trusting people, there is Carrington, that is the long tenured player on the team, and I think he was really instrumental for the win. He scored 20 points, and in the second part of the regular season, he is really getting better and better. And in this game, he was really important. I mean, if you look at at the last games, he scored 25 against Bahcesehir, 16 against Neptunus, even if the team loses. And he scored 20 as for now against Cluj. And Cluj has got the best one-two punch in offense between Russell and Creek, and um, Jerusalem, okay, as Harper, but he needs his friend to step up as well. His not a friend on the backcourt, and that happens. And also, he didn't score. He didn't. He shoot also very well from the 3 point line. He scored 4 out of 5 and in this season he's shooting from outside for 45%, 45.8%, and so the 3 point uh, is really a huge part of his game, and that happened as well. He was really important into the fourth quarter when Jerusalem was trying to resist to the comeback, and it led to overtime. But at the end, Jerusalem was winning and preventing Cluj to have already for a spot for the playoff, and that is one of the results that we were waiting into the last round.
Yeah, so Khadeen Carrington was the players that you wanted to talk about. The dagger three, really, to finish it off with 80 seconds left. People might be wondering, why don't we talk about Harper? We the thing that we do is we talk about two players in a game, and we are not repeating any players. So we haven't talked. We could talk about Jared Harper every game. 19 points in the final 3 minutes of regulation and overtime. So in the final 8 minutes of the game, he scored 19 points of his 30 points. Jared Harper just, I mean, MVP, you just have to throw it in there. You can't imagine anybody else right now. That's another topic for another conversation. Sticking to that we talk about, we don't want to talk about the same players every week. Last week, you talked about Amadeo Tessitore. We're going to talk about RJ Cole, and you saved my hide. I got to talk about RJ Cole this week. A massive victory for Umana Reyer Venice to clinch their spot in the playoffs. 91-75 in Spain. Both teams now 10-7. Manresa had been rolling 4 in a row, 7 of 8, and they had been scoring 96.2 points over the last 8 games. And the defense held Manresa to 75-26 in the second half. So massive defensive lockdown in the second half. Um, so slowed down Manresa. 15-0 run in the fourth quarter to put the game away. Otherwise, that'd have been close. But fourth quarter, 15-0 run. And Cole scored the first 9 points of that run ended with 25 points. Uh, Obviously got help from others. Uh, Kyle Welcher with 15, Tessitore with 11 plus 8 assists, 3 steals, and Denzel Valentine, 11 points and 9 rebounds. Cole has stepped up a couple times. 20 points against Aris earlier this year, also against Cluj. A Cluj game, he also had 18, 8 and 4. So this is a guy that has definitely been able to produce in games, and he was the guy who Manresa couldn't stop. Those Manresa guards, they're not fantastically athletic. Perez and what's his name? God, I'm right. They're not extremely athletic. So a guy like Cole, shifty, crafty, strong. That's a guy that they weren't able to really figure out a way to stop. So Manresa, sorry, Ryer, also a big victory on the road because this is a team that they had been only 2-6, 7-1 at home, but only 2-6. So them getting a big road victory over a hot Manresa team, this gives them some confidence going into the playoffs. Your thoughts? Any thoughts on Ryer or Manresa?
Well, I think RJ Cole is the only player that you cannot replace easily on the roster of Reyer Venezia, and I think he's the best guy to create advantage out of out of the defense, and I think he was really delivering the game they really need, because Maresa, we always talk about in the last episodes how they are really on a roll, and winning on their home is really an important statement as well about your chances to be um, to not really making some noise, but not to being taken lightly from the other play from the other opponents.
Before the Manresa fans start yelling at me, of course, Ratan Obasahan is fantastically athletic. The guys I was thinking about were Alex Reyes, Fernan Basas, Perez. None of those guys are extremely athletic. So Obasahan, of course, but you get a switch, and those guys are not going to be able to slow down goal. All right, let's move to the debutants in the competition. That's Niners Chemnitz, a team we've been talking about all season. I've been saying that even when they were losing games, it was tight games. They're in the playoffs, and they beat a strong Trento team, 81 76 67. uh, Trento down to 10 and 7. Chemnitz at 9 and 8. Ulm is thereby eliminated. You can say that uh, you can say that Trento didn't have Devontae Jones, and they didn't have Khalif Battle, and I think Niang too didn't play either, right? Yeah. So sorry, Battle didn't play, but Niang didn't play, and Jones didn't play. But on the other hand, Chemnitz didn't have Kevin Yebo or Amadou So Chemnitz was missing a lot, and came up with fantastic performances. 18-4 run to close the game over the final 8 minutes. DJ Stewart, 26 points, but zero in the final 8 minutes. They shut him down. Great defensive effort. You want to talk about Nike Sibande, 25 points, fantastic performance. So go ahead and talk about Mr. Nike.
Yeah, you already mentioned the absence of the game in the first game between the two teams. Yebo was also the MVP of the round because he scored like 33 points. That was his season high. No, it's Carrirai, and in the EuroCup, so it was really a huge missing as Jones on the other side. And when you got like this kind of missing, you need someone to step up. And Chemnitz as the guy, maybe Badal was the guy supposed to be in the same role when Jones was missing for Trento. But anyway, Sibande was in that spot, and in 2023, in the 2023, he was the ACC six man of the year in his NCAA season. So it seems like he's really used to be important for a team, even if he was not really into the starting five, or at least he wasn't really into the first or the second option of the team. And in this time, he was really his game. He didn't play. He wasn't drafted into the NBA, so he started his strange journey in Europe. And this summer, he won the tournament, and so he had some noise also into the social media, like how he can be into the NBA, why the guy is not there. And he said he was still in Europe, and in the last 4 games before the Trento one, he scored 24 points. So he had 8-7-7-0, and in the Trento game only, he scored 25, and it was obviously his season high. And Not only because he was really important, he was the punch of Chemnitz against every Trento offense. And then if Chemnitz now is on the playoff after this season, okay, they can thank Yebo, they can thank but they have really to make a great mm, uh, they had really a great game from Sibande. He was really maybe the instrumental guy. In this game, he was on fire. He scored like 6 from 8 from 2 points. He also had the two triples, and then he had 5 rebounds, 29 as a PAR. So he was really the guy when it was the most.
Yeah. Congrats to Chemnitz because this is a team that 2 years ago, yeah, 2 years ago won the FIBA Europe Cup and played last year in the BCL, and now joined the Euro Cup, and they're in the playoffs, and that's not a team I want to face. That's a good side. They're not deep, and that's one of the things that I've been kind of worried about recently. But that's a lot of talent, and you see them being able to, again, okay, without Devontae Jones, but they were also missing Yebo and so you put those two on that team. They're if I'm Sedevita, I don't want to play them. If I'm Ryer, I don't necessarily want to play them. That's going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough game, and it's a one-off game. So, and they got guys that can score. Corey Davis can score. Sibande can score. So that's going to be a tough matchup in the eighth finals. Let's move on to my final game. Mentioned it before. Bahcesehir, they could have clinched a top two spot in group A. Have to wait at least a week. Coach afterwards said we're gonna have to go the hard way, the hard road, to get there. Um, at home against Slask, no problem. The Polish side, 8 in a row losses, no problem. Last win was in November. That last win in November was against dun, 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 Bahcesehir. The Poles strike again. 82-80. Missed chance for Bahcesehir, 11-6. And yeah, it was Slask, was kind of in control much of the game, and they nearly gave it away. It was eight. We almost had Borg all over again. Actually, it would have been before Borg. It was an 8 point game with 46 seconds left. Slask committed 3 turnovers, and actually, the last one with 2.4 seconds left, they could not inbounds the ball. And Malachi Flynn actually had a game-winning 3 point attempt. It drew iron, but didn't go in. So and Slask survived. Kadre Gray was the main guy. He collected 19 points and 10 assists, 4 rebounds. You also had Noah Kirkwood have another big game with 13 points. Stefan Djordjevic, 17 and 7. You know, um, Djordjevic has we talked about Djordjevic in the past. Djordjevic has experience in Spain. Kirkwood is getting there. He's a national team player, youth national team player for Canada. Um, and these guys are playing also for future contracts, and a guy that Kadre Gray is playing himself into a big contract next year. He's in the last 4 games in the Euro Cup, he's averaging 17.8 points, 8.5 assists. He's got double doubles, points, assists the last 2 games. Had 22 and 10 against Hamburg, a game we didn't talk about last week. Obviously, Slask and Hamburg. He had 22 and 8 plus 5 steals. In this game, he had 19 and 10 and four assists against Bahcesehir, 31 PIR. So he's averaging 6.8 fouls drawn per game. Eight last week, eight this week, 31 PIR last week, 29 PIR this week. Kadre Gray will have, and we had, I think at the beginning of the year, we had who's going to be playing EuroLeague next year. Kadre Gray might not be playing EuroLeague next year, but he'll be playing for one of the better teams in Europe next year. You'd have to think about that the way he's playing. National team player for Canada. He was the leading scorer in Romania last year with Valseia. Was in Poland in 23-24. Went to a Canadian university, went through the Canadian university system. So the universities in USA, they didn't get a big, the guys who stay in Canada, universities kind of are harder to get big visuals on. But he's playing for the national team all the time, Canadian national team. So Kadre Gray, massive game. Worries about Bahcesehir, I mean, it's a team that's been up and down.
Well, I think these
I
two
think they lost
defeats.
three of five, if I wasn't mistaken, or three of six in one span during the season.
Yeah, and also I think the two games against Laska can be their biggest regret of the regular season because they own the tiebreaker against the Hapoel, and they're now two games behind them. And if they win against Lask both games, and I think is one thing that you have to do, they could be as for now in the top spot of the Group A. So I think those two games are really the regret of their season.
They played Neptunus the last game, and they lost to Neptunus as well. They lost by 15 points at home to Neptunus. And that was the week after they lost. Sorry, so that was the Slask loss was the last one before the FIBA window, and then the first game after the FIBA window was the 15-point loss at home to Neptunus. They beat Cluj, and then they lost to Reyer. So they lost three games in a four-game stretch. And Neptunus is the next game. So you'd have to kind of think that they should be able to get that victory. All right, so everything's set up. Last round of action, games you're watching. I can imagine one game pretty sure you're going to be watching, but let's hear what else you got.
Yeah, yes, I think this is a thrilling finish for the regular season because you got only one spot on the playoff to being already to be assigned between Cluj and Aris, and they will gain it in a one-on-one game because you got the game between Cluj and Aris, and I think this is the game of the next round to see.
Not the only game. Not the only game. We have Cluj, of course, not a 10-point win, so they have that in their advantage. Um, Actually, it doesn't matter because whoever wins that game is going to go through. So Turk Telekom at 11 and 6, Chemnitz at 9 and 8, Borusnos 11 and 6, Borg at 13 and 4, and then Reyer at home, as we mentioned, a strong team at home against Jerusalem. All right, we need to roll. Marco, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Well, you can basically find me on any social media as Marco A. Munno, but mostly on X. Munno is the surname.
And I am at Hein News, HEINNEWS, HEINNEWS. Marco, thanks for jumping on board, sacrificing early morning on Thursday. Everybody, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Check us out on the Substack. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll catch you next week. Thrilling close to the regular season. Thanks for listening.